The Old Man and the Lisa is the 21st episode of the 8th season of The Simpsons. This was directed by Mark Kirkland and it aired in 1997. And I've seen this episode a good few times and I do really enjoy it. And I will say kind of what happens in the final half of it, the last kind of 5 minutes or so, I didn't see coming. And that for me is a sign of a pretty well written episode. Because some of the episodes are quite predictable, they're still enjoyable, but certainly for me with this episode, the first time I watched it, there were things that I hadn't predicted, things that kind of kept me on my toes a little bit, and that's something that I really appreciate. But the episode as a whole is one that I really enjoy. Burns is having some financial difficulties, and one thing leads to another, and he ends up asking Lisa for help. And straight away, that's really fascinating, because Lisa and Mr. Burns have never had that many scenes together. There have been a couple, but usually it's going to be Bart or obviously Homer. So straight away it's really interesting to see these two characters interacting constantly. And we get to see a different side to Mr. Burns as well, as he starts to do things seemingly more ethically. And it's certainly a very interesting look at his character, and I really enjoyed that side of things. And then the narrative, as I said, took turns that I was not necessarily expecting. And there were certainly things in it that I found surprising, but also definitely very enjoyable. There are some important messages there that we get from Lisa about sustainability and looking after oceans and etc., which is all obviously very important. I think it's a pretty decent episode. It's not one of my all-time favourites, but because it's quite different and because we get to see Lisa and Mr. Burns interacting with each other, it's certainly different to a lot of others. I really enjoyed it. Never going to be one of my top favourites. Certainly not one of my top favourite Lisa episodes. But it's a different look at Mr. Burns' character. A really interesting narrative. 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb, which is definitely a good rating. Not as high as a lot of others, but still pretty well received. Personally, I really enjoyed The Old Man and the Lisa.